You are looking live at the Homestead-Miami Speedway, site of today's Ford EcoBoost 400. Cashing tickets is what it's all about. So let's head to the studio for today's edition of Racers Odds. Here's your host, John Roberts.
And welcome, everybody, to this championship edition of Racers Odds. Here's what it all comes down to. What started 9 months ago in Central Florida now finishes up some 14,000 miles of racing later in Southern Florida. One race, four drivers, one championship, and a huge opportunity for you to cash a ticket. So let's not forget, all the focus is going to be on the four championship drivers today. But when it comes to wagering, there still is a lot of money to be made with the drivers who aren't running for the championship. With us today is our odds-making expert, that, of course, a handicapper, Steve Makinen, and the editor of Point Spread Weekly, and also our championship crew chief, Jeff Hammond. So the way we look at the championship four right now is the fact that there is one driver by himself in Kevin Harvick. He is up against three Joe Gibbs Racing teammates. So, Jeff Hammond, here's the question. When it comes to picking a winner and potentially a champion in the same breath, is it better to be the one driver by himself, or is it perhaps better to have three teammates on the track with you?
Well, I think it's a really good question right there, John. And the fact is, I really believe there's an advantage for Kevin Harvick today because he's had Clint Boyer, Eric Almirola, and Daniel Suarez, and a lot of other Ford teams from Team Penske, for example, and Roush Fenway that are running simulations and trying different things to give him more information so Rodney Childers and his number 4 team can make the right decisions for Kevin to make sure he's got the best car out there. With Joe Gibbs and the Toyota organization, they've got half of the Toyotas racing for a championship. They've only got so many parts and pieces that can go certain places. And remember, I don't care who you are, everybody's wanting that championship. So sometimes you might want to hold back just that little bit of information that your teammate may be able to benefit off of. You don't want to give it up. So I think Kevin has got the advantage there.
So, Steve Makinen, when you look at kind of a limited amount of practice time this weekend and also a rained-out qualifying session, that puts the four championship contenders up front. So, therefore, we didn't see a ton of movement in terms of the odds for winning a race and perhaps winning the championship, which once again could be one and the same. But, boy, talk about an even playing field here on both the odds to win the race, Steve, and the odds to win the championship. The Joe Gibbs drivers are favored. Kevin Harvick is just slightly behind.
Yeah, the odds tell the story here, I think. At this point, we were talking here before the show. You could give me an argument for any one of these four drivers winning today, and I would probably agree with you. And then you could give me another guy, and I would agree with you on that guy. So this is about as close and entertaining of a Final Four, I think, as we've seen in the NASCAR playoffs, and it should be very exciting.
All right, so, Jeff, when you look at these drivers, do you feel the same way? Are we pretty much throwing them up in the air and where they land? I mean, just a slight difference when it comes to odds.
Yeah, and the thing is, you can't look at numbers because the numbers are almost comparable. I mean, they're so equal across the board, it's not even funny. But I will tell you where I'm worried and what I'm expecting to happen today. Pressure. The pressure is on these guys to perform, to not make a mistake. If somebody makes a mistake on pit road, loose wheel, uncontrolled tire, speeding on pit road, speeding on the exit, just trying to get on pit road. We've already seen a car miss the entrance of pit road on Saturday that had an effect on the outcome of the championship. So today, who can be perfect? Who can not make mistakes? Because all these teams have. And if you really want to do some research, folks, real quickly, look and see who's made more mistakes on pit road this year, and maybe they will make another one today that will make the decision whether they wind up being the champion or not.
That could definitely be a recurring theme. Now, Kyle Busch opened up just a little bit lower than where he is, plus 275 to win the race, currently plus 250. He's also plus 255 to win the championship. So Kyle knows it doesn't matter really what you did so far this season. It's all on the line today.
I guess the way I look at it is we kind of came in here as the underdog in 15 and wasn't necessarily favored. Many thought that we shouldn't even have been eligible, and so we went out there and stomped their ass and won the deal. So what can you do for me now?
All right, he certainly did win the deal back in 2015. Here's one thing to consider about Kyle Busch when matched up to the other drivers. This is very un-Kyle Busch-like. Kyle Busch is the only driver out of the four championship contenders who has not won a race yet this season on a 1.5-mile track. Jeff Hammond, if that was another driver we were talking about, you may be worried about that. But nonetheless, this is the second-place finisher from last week, and he is Kyle Busch.
No, he isn't. And the thing is, so far throughout this entire championship weekend, starting on Friday night with the Gander Outdoor Truck Series, Matt Crafton hadn't won a race all year long. Didn't win on Friday night, ran second, but still won the championship. Tyler Reddick going against Christopher Bell yesterday. Everybody know he was a defending champion, but he really had been pretty much outclassed by Christopher Bell. In the end, it was Tyler Reddick who was able to bring home the trophy once again. So to me, this whole championship weekend is set for upsets. So you never know. And this may wind up being where Kyle steps up at the last minute and shows us something he hasn't showed us in the previous 21 races.
And, Steve, let's remember, we're talking about two different wagers here. There's the wager, of course, there's the matchups, which we're going to get into, which are huge. But then again, there's the wager of who wins the championship and who wins the race. It could be one and the same, but there's no guarantee.
There's absolutely no guarantee. There's certainly a couple drivers that I would peg right off the bat that have a chance to win this race that aren't going for a championship today. And you got to remember, some of these guys, they're looking forward to next year. A win here brings big momentum into the offseason, and they're racing for a different motivation than those guys. 4 guys are racing against one another. 36 other guys are racing for a chance to bring momentum into next season.
So, Steve, for your best bet of the week, you went outside of this championship four.
Yeah, like I said, I was a little uncomfortable with picking one guy against another, I guess, in these Elite Four, these Championship Four matchups. But I'm looking at a matchup here with Ryan Blaney against Alex Bowman. Bowman had a good run in middle of the playoffs. I think he had a second and a third, maybe I think Charlotte and Dover. Since then, things have not gone his way. They've gone Blaney's way. Last 5 races, Blaney has 3 top 5s, average finish of 7.6. In that same time frame, Bowman's average finish is 23.2. This is a pretty short price, minus 135. And I actually expect Blaney to be one of the guys we're going to be talking about going into next season as a potential championship contender. And he has a good chance to start off here with a great run.
All right, we're going to be focusing a lot more on all the head-to-head matchups and also some of the groupings as well. But, Jeff, where did you find your best bet of the week?
I think it's surprising, once again, that Steve Makinen and I are very much similar likes about Ryan Blaney here. I mean, this guy's been really solid the last little bit. You know, I looked at this the last 3 races. He's been 5th, 8th, and 3rd. He's about 4th, as far as 10-lap averages. So I'm going to take him against Eric Jones. Eric Jones, came in strong into the playoffs. Looked like he may be a guy that could possibly make it all the way to Homestead. Has really faltered, lost a lot of, I guess you might consider, momentum, while the 12 car keeps putting together back-to-back races and getting better and better. Last week, as I said, at IMS Racing, he finished 3rd, has a good practice speed, good qualifying speed. I believe today this is a good bet, folks, to be able to take some money home and cash a ticket.
Absolutely. So when I'm looking to cash a ticket, I am going inside the championship four, and there's good reason behind these two drivers that I think one is a little bit superior to the other. But then again, I say a little bit superior to the other. First of all, one finished ahead of the other in Steve Makinen's simulation, which we'll get into in just a moment. But also, if you look at this new rules package, the different downforce, the different horsepower, one of the drivers that's been adapting to it better than anybody else, as usual, on the 1.5-mile tracks is Martin Truex Jr. The one driver who has struggled with this has been Kyle Busch. It seems like this year has not been quite a Kyle Busch year, so I'm going to go inside of that championship four. I'm going to give up the 120, and I believe that Martin Truex Jr., if he is not the championship contender, if he's not the champion, I still believe he finishes ahead of Kyle Busch. So those are our best bets of the week right now. We'll be over them again and also take a look at all the other betting that's available out there. But right now, let's go down to the racetrack and check in with Pat Patterson for what's talked about in the garage.
Yeah, so the buzz in the garage is, those 4 guys are after the championship, but there's a whole bunch of other fast cars. Keep your eye on Joey Logano today. Very, very good at this racetrack. Kyle Larson over in the 42. He's another one that can rim ride around the wall here today and can also be a factor at the end of this race. This may be the first day ever in the history of the championship Sundays where one of the cars outside of the championship competitors is going to have a shot to win the race. So it's going to make it very interesting, very fast. The racetrack's extremely grippy. Kyle Busch was the fastest in practice. His teammate his teammate Martin Truex Jr. was second fastest. Denny Hamlin was third. And then there's Brad Keselowski, and that's another guy you got to keep your eye on here today at the 1.5 mile Homestead-Miami Speedway. It's all going to end here. We're going to crown a champion. We'll see if the guy that wins is also the champion for the season. But until next year, this is it for NASCAR, the last one. It's been a great pleasure being alongside with you guys. Have a great afternoon and enjoy the finale from South Miami.
Yeah, and Pat enjoyed it. Thank you very much for the at-track reports all season long. But he's right. The rule is generally, under this format, the winner of the race is generally the champion. That doesn't necessarily mean it's guaranteed this time around. So Steve, quickly, when you look at some of these guys outside of the top 4, there's some pretty good, maybe some pretty good value here at a Brad Keselowski at 40-1, Joey Logano at 30-1, and also Kyle Larson led the most laps in the last 2 races here. Man, Steve, there could be some value back there.
Absolutely, and of the 3 guys you just put, I would peg them. And then I would also add Ryan Blaney to that list. And did you mention Kyle Larson there?
Yes, sir. Sure did. 12-1.
So 5th through 9th on my simulation today are Larson, Logano, Elliott, Keselowski, and Blaney. I would peg any one of those 5 guys as having the ability to win today's event.
All right, so we're going to take a very close look at Steve's simulation. Also check in with Ed Salmons from the Westgate book. Always interesting to hear his insight as to how the odds were laid out this weekend. We got him coming up, and also head-to-head matchups, groupings, and also a special little message from all of us here at the end of the program today about what this has all meant so far this year. Stay with us. We'll be back with much more Racers Odds in just a moment.
Hi, this is Doug Rice of the Performance Racing Network. Whenever the PRN crew heads to Las Vegas, we always stay at the South Point Hotel and Casino. You know, it's our home away from home. The South Point features great restaurants, free parking, and they go out of their way to make race fans feel welcome. So when you make your plans to visit Vegas and attend the South Point 400, it just makes sense to book into the South Point. The South Point also offers fantastic room and race ticket packages. Make your reservations now at southpointcasino.com.
The Edge, only on the Vegas Stats and Information Network.
How you feeling? I'm feeling good. How you doing, bro? I'm feeling good, man. How you doing? How you doing?
The Edge, weekdays 3 p.m. Eastern.
The Raiders have made some sensational headlines. I don't think you or I or anybody who seriously handicaps the NFL saying, yeah, the Raiders are going to be a playoff.
I'm talking more public
more about public team, especially in Vegas with the excitement with that team going to be here in 2020.
Only on the Vegas Stats and Information Network. Sirius XM Channel 204.
It's crazy.
It is. Attention business owners. We know that owning a business means getting things done right now. So if your right now list includes a new building, call the Right Now Company. General Steel. We can design a building for your business quickly and save you thousands of dollars. That's right, thousands. You may think General Steel only builds large projects or that you can't afford General Steel quality. Well, check these prices. How about a 40 by 60 foot building for under $22,000? Or even a 50 by 100 for under $35,000? That's right, a 5,000 square foot building for under $35,000. And these buildings all have General Steel quality. Best of all, you can still order a building and have it delivered in time to build this year. How's that for right now? So if your right now list includes a new building, call the Right Now Company, General Steel.
800-398-8309. 800-398-8309. 800-398-8309. That's 800-398-8309.
It's more Racers Odds.
And welcome back, everybody. Racers Odds is your #1 source for the information and statistics you need to make the wise wagers on NASCAR's top series. We've been on, with you here race day 4 quite some time now, and tried to give you the information that you need in order to make those wise wagers. But right now, we're going to go pretty much to the top where the odds are made, and that, of course, is the Westgate book. Want to welcome in Ed Salmons once again from Westgate. And Ed, I'd imagine this time around, when you look at trying to make odds amongst these 4 drivers, I mean, this has been from top to bottom one of the most evenly matched championship weekends we've had in NASCAR in years.
This by far is the closest of the 4 drivers that we've ever had in the Final Four. I know last year it got closer as we got closer to race time, because going into the race last year, Logano wasn't as close to the other 3, but his car looked really good in practice last year. Now this year, the 4 of them were almost identical odds heading into the week, and right now we've got Truex, Kyle Busch, and Denny Hamlin all at 5-2, and we have Kevin Harvick at 7-2, and then it goes all the way down to Kyle Larson at 12-1, and then you go to Joey Logano and Brad Keselowski are 50-1. So, you know, it's really inflated towards the 4 chase drivers going for, or playoff drivers going for the championship today.
So, Ed, when you're watching what's coming out of Miami right now, no qualifying, limited amount of practice, does that affect you guys right there at the last little bit for setting the odds?
Not really. I mean, we got to practice yesterday. I believe we got like 58 laps in during that 55-minute practice session, so that was definitely a help. And it looks to be 5 guys that can win today. I can't imagine anyone other than the 5 can actually win today.
Steve, go ahead. Here's Steve Makinen.
Hi, Ed. How are you doing?
Great.
My simulation today has Kevin Harvick at top, and I saw with the odds slipping on him. Is that because of the 10-lap averages yesterday? I mean, specifically.
I mean, part of it is that. I mean, I do more extensive lap coverage for the practices than just the 10 laps, and you know the cars look pretty even. I mean, you could probably make a case for all 4 of them as far as having the best car. I mean, I actually think that Kyle Larson has the best long-run car today, but as far as money, I mean, the money is just pouring in on the 3 Gibbs drivers, and Kevin Harvick's getting about a third of the amount of money that the Gibbs guys have been getting.
Ed, what is the breakdown of that? I mean, I know you guys as odds makers, you need to be able to cover it. You need to be able to take even betting on either side. But when it comes to making odds, is it about the betting that comes in and the on-track performance, or is it about equal in terms of moving those with betting and with on-track performance?
It's definitely a science, and it's a little combination of each. Obviously, driver ability is big, car is big, and what you've done in practice, and then again, how you race on a particular track or how you've raced lately. And it's kind of, and perception. I mean, just the perception is one of the 4 chase or playoff drivers always seems to win this race. And Kyle Larson's had his chances to win this race. Literally, it feels like, 3 of the last 4 years, and always a late caution comes out, and he never gets out in front. But outside of those 5, I mean, that's the perception going into this race, and they've certainly bet it that way. And our job as odds makers is just where we can write enough money on all these guys and still, make a decent amount of profit or put ourselves in the best position that we can. And like I was saying before, this race is just, it's so different than all the others outside of plate races that, there's guys that, I'll give you, for instance, Chase Elliott, Eric Jones, Kurt Busch, Ryan Blaney. Normally in this kind of race, they'd be 20, 25-1. I've got them 80-1. I mean, I'm just begging people to bet anyone other than essentially the 4 playoff guys.
So when it comes to getting ready for a championship run, as a fellow competitor, we always put forth a little extra effort. We always, felt like we went the extra mile. We tried to, do that little extra to make sure we were perfect. In your world, do y'all make an extra effort when it's a championship run like today? With y'all's preparation?
Yeah. There's no doubt about it. And number one thing is understanding what do the people want to bet? And they want to bet the 4 playoff guys. So that's a starting point. So normally in a race like this, you would have these guys would be anywhere from, let's just say if they had a supercar in practice, to 7-2, or a car that was below average as high as 8-1. And they're all knocked way down just because of the perception that we know that people want to bet on them. And then you take guys that people usually don't bet on, and you essentially double and triple their odds just looking to get people to bet on them. And that's our job.
Hey, Ed, this morning, President Steve Phelps had a lot to say about the state of the sport in his annual address, and he said he saw a lot of things that are picking up that he really likes that bode well for the future. We've had a great time this year doing this Racers Odds program and seeing the interest in wagering on NASCAR, but I think you guys really know what the benchmark is there. What kind of interest have you seen over the past couple of years? And as the landscape continues to change, what do you see in the future for wagering on NASCAR?
Well, I definitely think that NASCAR has the chance to really advance itself with all the betting possibilities, and obviously more states are coming on board here. And there's definitely more things to do, but it's just a matter of just getting the information out there. There's a lot of fantasy players in NASCAR that play that, and obviously with sports betting becoming legal in more states, that they may take the fantasy stuff that they do and then try to make some dollars on the side. So I think anything that NASCAR can do, and they're definitely doing more things as far as supplying, they're giving 10 lap averages, 15, 20. They've definitely done better with that. But I feel like the more information NASCAR can provide will definitely help people making odds and people being able to bet more things.
Ed Salmons from the Westgate Superbook. Ed, thank you so much for your input this year. Been great to have you along and hope to talk to you a lot in the future. Thanks again for your time.
Okay, thanks, Sean.
All right, that is Ed Salmons, Vice President of Risk Management and Odds Making for Westgate Superbook. He is the among the guys that set the odds every weekend, so they're paying more closer attention than just about anybody to what's going on the racetrack on any given weekend, especially on a championship weekend. So we got to take a quick break here on Racers Odds. When we come back, we'll dive into Steve Makinen's simulation. We also have head-to-head matchups and group wagers coming up for you, so stay with us. Much more Racers Odds is coming your way.
Hi, this is Doug Rice of the Performance Racing Network. Whenever the PRN crew heads to Las Vegas, we always stay at the South Point Hotel and Casino. It's our home away from home. The South Point features great restaurants, free parking, and they go out of their way to make race fans feel welcome. So when you make your plans to visit Vegas and attend the South Point 400, it just makes sense to book into the South Point. The South Point also offers fantastic room and race ticket packages. Make your reservations now at southpointcasino.com.
Gone Racing.
There's still will to will.
The weekly NASCAR show that gets you ready for this week's big race and more.
Oh, yeah!
Take a ride with us to Victory Lane on Gone Racing.
We just got these lines last night. It was plus 700 on Brad Keselowski. He's already down to plus 550, so I think we know where the money is.
It's going that way.
And that's where my money would have been, too.
Thursday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern on VSiN, Channel 204, and SiriusXM NASCAR Radio, Channel 90.
Great job.
Medicare rules are confusing. They should be. There are over 130,000 pages of regulations. There's Part A through D, Medicare Advantage, and Medigap. According to the CMS, there are government programs available that can help you pay for your medical expenses. Choosing the right Medicare plan is a really big deal. The wrong choice can cost you a lot of money, and the right choice can put more money in your pocket. Call one of our licensed representatives today. At 65 Plus Medicare, our free service can show you a plan that will maximize your Medicare benefits, ensure you are taking advantage of all available government assistance programs, and save you money. Call now.
800-763-4829. 800-763-4829. 800-763-4829. That's 800-763-4829.
Not all benefits listed may be available on all plans or in a single benefit package. Enrollment in the prescribed plan type may be limited to certain times of the year unless you qualify for a special enrollment period. No obligation to enroll.
We're back with more Racers Odds.
Welcome back, everybody, to Racers Odds. This is your number one source for information and stats when wagering on NASCAR's Top Series. It is the longest season in all of professional sports by far. It lasts a better part of 9 months, and it all ends up here. And if you're new to NASCAR, there was a time when cumulative points throughout the season added up. There wasn't a playoff format, there was an elimination, and there certainly was not a championship four. So this is an entirely new thing over the last couple years to have a championship four when you head into this final race of the season. Because quite frankly, before, sometimes it was decided before you even got to the last race of the season. So we're in a good spot in terms of competition right now. And Steve Makinen, I imagine that gives you all kinds of different things to put into your simulation scenarios when you go into a race as big and as different as this.
Yeah, this is a different animal in that regard. However, the interesting thing, probably got to talk about this right off the bat, is this grade of the simulation. I had this a B+ going into the season. However, with these four guys being locked up so closely, I guess in terms of odds and all that, I took a real close look this week at my simulation compared to past projections and past results. And I'm going to tell you, I'm ready to give this track a full-fledged A grade. There is very little variation in what I've projected on my simulations in the last 3 to 5 races here in comparison to the finishes. So I'm ready to give this one a full-fledged A.
Is this the only A track, Steve? I believe it is, isn't it?
There was a couple mid-season tracks with an A
that got A's.
So,
okay,
but this one has been very projectable.
Yeah, that never happened to us growing up, that we went from a B+ to an A. It was always the other way around. But anyway, so Steve,
extra credit.
and again, not a tremendous amount of movement this time around. You know, we may have expected a little bit more with maybe qualifying. Say somebody qualified, but the qualifying was rained out. Our 4 competitors starting up front. Our 4 championship competitors are starting up front, and so therefore that didn't produce much movement.
Yeah, exactly. Now, as I looked at the results, the qualifying wasn't nearly as important as the other things I found. With the 10-lap averages have proven to be very important here. Track designation rating on my scale, very important. Recent momentum rating, very important. The rest, not so important. So top happy hour speed doesn't really matter. How they've done at Miami hasn't really mattered that greatly. So just track designation more important than that. So a lot of things pointing to certain guys because of those factors, and we'll be getting into those things as we discuss the different matchups and groups.
So Steve, when you're going through your simulation, do you go as far as, didn't you say anything about the pit crews or anything like that? Do you evaluate who's been quick off of pit road, and a little bit like what I brought up earlier? To me, the guys, somebody's going to make a mistake today. Somebody's going to get a little bit overzealous, or something's going to make somebody make a mistake. And I think that's going to be one of the bigger factors than anything else that we're going to get into today.
If we look at this like a football game, as you're building odds for a football game, it's very hard to handicap turnovers. They generally go into what I would call a yards per point category in football. I would view pit performance similar to that. Now, the overall pit performance for the season will go into the overall ratings that you get for a driver. Now, there's no saying, hey, this team's not going to do well today. That's if you have a handle on that, Jeff, I would love to tap your brain on that one.
No, I'm with you on that right there. That's the thing, is I don't know it's like, if you're at the racetrack, you can feel some of these vibes in there. Who's handling the pressure? Who do you expect that might, try too hard? That's usually the one thing I did with my crews in situations. Look, guys, breathe. Don't get all amped up thinking, we can beat them, and all of a sudden you jump off off the pit wall too quick, and you get caught going up on pit road too early, so you get yourself in trouble there, or you get in too big a hurry with your hand speed when you're changing the tire and you leave a wheel loose. All these things can factor in. So really trying to get the guys to just play within themselves. You always hear this, but it's true. And when you feel that pressure that first time of a championship run, it's nothing like the regular season. I can't explain why. They've been going through these playoffs, but today is different than what it was last weekend and the week before that at Texas. So it's really, or Martinsville, I should say. So it's really, this is the time of the year that I look at guys who've been able to handle the pressure, drivers and crew members and their crew chiefs. Those are the ones I feel like have an advantage over the rest of them. And across this group right now, dang, it's about as close as you could ever call.
Yeah, and it's just it's just like Steve said a second ago. This is a different race. There could be different performances, but if you want to look at some of the past history, if you look at Kevin Harvick earlier this season, he's at plus 300. He's the one guy that's behind all the other three Joe Gibbs Racing teammates. If you look at him, his pit crew had some trouble earlier this season. He kind of took a leadership role, and he talked to his pit guys over the radio, and he said, "Look, we are better than that. You guys are better than that. Just calm down. We'll pick it up." Denny Hamlin, though, however, although, he's got the fastest 10-lap average right now, but if you're looking to wager on him at a plus 250 to win the race and potentially the championship, he had the best 10-lap average. So Steve, again, I just think just to repeat again, there's got to be so many different variables in the simulations that go into this thing because of the different beast of this track.
Yeah, there certainly is, and I actually weight the different categories differently at every track. That's a big part of my simulation. So if I go back and I look and I see that qualifying's not that important, that's minimized more on certain tracks. There's other tracks, maybe you go to a road course, qualifying is much more important. It gets bumped up in its importance on my simulation formulas. So I study that stuff closely, and I do my best to project the races based upon what I've seen.
So, guys, let us now jump into this first round of matchups because these are the big ones. This is the set of matchups that involve our championship contenders. And again, probably the more difficult to pick because these guys are so even. You see Martin Truex Jr. involved in the first three, finds himself as the favorite in all of those against the other competitors. But for Martin, getting behind the wheel of this different race package on this racetrack, he said, it's a little bit different, but for him, it's still good.
Yeah, I felt pretty good, for a lot of new things here at Homestead. Definitely a lot different than what we've done here in the past, feel-wise, and the way you're driving the car and things. But I felt pretty close. It was good that we were able to make three long runs. Typically if you're, for me personally, if the car's pretty close, I'll go out there and run a bunch of laps right away. So that's definitely a good sign. The guys did a good job being prepared there, making a lot of good assumptions. And I feel pretty good. I definitely feel like we can get better. So just like every other weekend, it's, how do you get better? Can you do the right things? Can you make the right changes tonight for tomorrow? And then you go race and see how it plays out. But feeling pretty good about things, and hopefully we can get a little bit better.
So, Steve, I usually check with you before I make my wagers, but this time around I went ahead and went with this one. What do you think about that first matchup we looked at? The reason I'm behind this one is that the minus 120 isn't that big of a give up for Martin Truex Jr. I just feel like the performance has been way ahead on the 1.5 miles than Kyle Busch, and it just seems like to me it's just not been a Kyle Busch type year.
Well, the second half certainly hasn't been. The first half, you go back and you certainly, if this was the championship race back in June, you're all over Kyle Busch. It just hasn't been a great second half of the season for him. So I can't blame you for what you're doing there. I think if one of these guys has been overlooked this weekend, I think it's Martin Truex. So if anyone wants to play the underdog card, it's because he wasn't the last winner at a track. He won 3 races ago to qualify for the championship, but he seems to be a little overlooked, and maybe that's the motivation he needs to get himself another championship.
I'll buy that, Jeff.
Yeah, but I don't think in his case it really matters. I think he is not about playing mind games. I think he's all about the moment. And I think that's the one thing that, we've seen so far coming into this championship weekend from the other series. There's guys that you did not figure based off of the information you were dealing with that you would expect to either wind up being a champion or not being the champion. So today it's almost the same way here. We don't know until they drop the green flag who's been playing a little bit possum, who's really got the fastest car, and how hard they've been running it. Because a lot of times some drivers have a tendency to go out there and try to fire down really hard on those first 10 laps. So number one, they kind of get ahead of everybody else. They get in their heads thinking, oh my God, we got to catch it. We got to make adjustments to our car. The smart guys realize, just like Martin was pointing out, I need a car that we can tune on. If we drop the green flag and it's loose, can you tighten it up? If it's too tight, can you free it up? Is the track going to change at the halfway point? They know they're going to get 2 shots to work on it. So those are the things that a smart race car driver, in my opinion, that's what they're looking for, and that's what makes I'm talking about Mark Truex Jr. and Cole Pern, so dangerous today. And I like your bet.
Yeah, so thank you. And another thing about Kevin Harvick, finds himself an underdog in all 3 matchups. And, if you look at the odds to win the race or to win the championship, they mirror that. But there is also a fairly good chance for Kevin Harvick as well. He's not that far behind, and he can certainly upset this whole field and come around and win this thing for his 2nd championship. So we're going to take a quick break here. Got a lot more head-to-head matchups for you. And also, we will dive into the group wagers as well. So stay with us. We got much more coming your way on Racers Odds.
Hi, this is Doug Rice of the Performance Racing Network. Whenever the PRN crew heads to Las Vegas, we always stay at the South Point Hotel and Casino. It's our home away from home. The South Point features great restaurants, free parking, and they go out of their way to make race fans feel welcome. So when you make your plans to visit Vegas and attend the South Point 400, it just makes sense to book into the South Point. The South Point also offers fantastic room and race ticket packages. Make your reservations now at southpointcasino.com.
Before the pros tee off for this week's golf tournament, the VSiN experts help you make the cut on long shots.
When I profiled all the players for this tournament, I said Schauffele's number 1 on my board. I like the odds, 25-1. Let's go ahead and play X.
Brady Cannon, Matt Humans, and Wes Reynolds are your weekly betting caddies and help you cash those tickets.
Don't be afraid to maybe take some longer odd guys.
Don't miss long shots, Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern on VSiN, the only golf betting show you need, exclusively on Sirius XM Channel 204.
It's happening to you every night. One snores, and the other can't sleep. It seems like there's no end to it. But now there's a quick and easy-to-use solution, a natural solution. Snore Stop. Try it risk-free today. Snore Stop was created and tested by a team of physicians and has been helping couples sleep for over 20 years. It is the #1 selling anti-snoring medicine in the U.S. Snore Stop sprays or tablets are now available nationwide. All you have to do is call. It's time to try Snore Stop and make every night a better night for both of you. Don't wait. Try Snore Stop, the #1 selling anti-snoring medicine in the U.S. spray or tablets. Call right now for your risk-free trial offer. 800-984-0965. 800-984-0965. 800-984-0965. That's 800-984-0965.
It's more Racers Odds.
And welcome back, everybody. Throughout this season, we've been looking at basically 3 types of bet, head-to-head matchups, and also group bets, as well as who's going to win the championship or individual odds on who's going to win the race. Now, at the bottom of your screen, you'll see the individual odds, and the drivers with the stars, those are the championship contenders, and also you see that it is now just a little bit more than 50 minutes before the green flag waves on the final race of the season. So let's pick up our head-to-head matchups once again, move down into our grouping number 2, and see if there's some value to be had here with some of these other drivers. And Steve, I know you've already looked at this group for a little bit of value, perhaps a little ticket cashing going on here when all is said and done.
Yeah, as I studied these simulations for the last 5 years, one thing was very prominent. The recent momentum rating I have, the last 5 winners were all in the top 4 at the time going into that race. The top 4 this week are Harvick, Elliott, Larson, and Kyle Busch. Two of the playoff guys are missing. They're Hamlin and Truex. Their momentum just hasn't been as good as the other guys here, basically on the way I handicap that factor. So as I look at these matchups here, I think Chase Elliott, pretty big underdog here to Brad Keselowski. Elliott could use a good run here to, I guess, sort of turn around what was a disappointing end to the playoffs for him, and I would expect a good run from him today.
All right, Jeff Hammond, what do you see in this group? You like anybody in particular?
Well, I've already picked, Jones and Ryan Blaney right there because I really like the momentum that Ryan's bringing into this situation, and the fact that Jones has really been pretty much flat over the last 4 or 5 races. So I like him as far as that's concerned. But, there's a lot of – I like what Steve's saying, too, about Elliott. If you feel like he can handle somebody like Keselowski, you could make some good money with him right now today. And I know that he mentally is looking for a shot to get this team, ready to go to Daytona in February. And that's what he's looking for is to be able, in a situation like this, he wants to get as high up as possible, and it could wind up being he'll be in front of somebody like Keselowski.
Yeah, now, Steve, one of the things I noticed when I first looked at this list, I was looking for anybody against Kyle Larson, and he was not in a head-to-head matchup. He was one of the 5 that had fairly decent, odds in the individual ones, but no Kyle Larson in this one. So you have to kind of throw that research out, that past performance out.
Yeah, I listened to Ed Salmons. I think he pretty much stated why that was the case. He viewed Larson as better than the rest of the field, but not quite to the level of the Ford Championship guys, making it a difficult matchup option for him to create numbers for.
Yeah, and also another thing to consider, race fans, when you look at this, over the years, when you have your top 4 contenders on the racetrack, those other drivers, they don't want to be that guy. They don't want to be the guy that races a championship contender a little bit too hard, and they're known for that for the rest of, well, at least the offseason, and perhaps some payback down the road for that. So that's another thing to keep in mind when you wager outside of this top 4. So let's move on to the third set of matchups. A couple other drivers here to definitely take a look at. Kurt Busch has had a fairly decent run over the years at Homestead-Miami. Jeff, anybody here, any of these matchups tickle your fancy?
Not really, not as much as I did the round before. I mean, I like what Steve did with Blaney over Bowman, but I just thought I was giving maybe up a little bit too much there. So, but other than that, the one other one I kind of find interesting is just the fact that we got Paul Menard against Matt DiBenedetto. When the guy that's exiting the 21 car for the Wood Brothers with the guy that's coming in to take that seat starting next year, how they've got those two guys matched up. And, definitely I think it makes for a real intriguing exit.
All right, so Steve, let's move on to the groups. And if you look at Group A, the first group of this one, these are, of course, your 4 championship contenders. So in a sense here, if you want to wager this group, you're basically picking your champion, I would think. But also at the same time, you might be predicting your race winner. Is this one of those cases where if you want to pick out of Group A, you may just want to go back to what's being paid out at the head-to-head? I mean, I'm sorry, at the individual odds. It may be a better bet, or is it?
It's so close here. It makes sense if you want to get a 315 on Harvick. Maybe that's a better price because if he's going to win a championship, he's probably going to win. But the numbers are so close to one another. There's really not a whole lot of value in that argument.
All right, so Jeff Hammond, if you're let's say you got to do this. Let's say you got to wager somebody here. What do you do? Where do you go? I'm putting you on the spot.
I'm going to go with Kevin Harvick.
Really?
I'm going to go with Kevin Harvick in this situation just because I believe out of all the guys in the 10-lap average and everything that we're looking at, even the practice speeds, if anybody can find speed, I believe Kevin and Rodney Childers will come up with the right situation, and they will surprise somebody. And I also like the way Steve does his simulation, and he comes out on top with him also.
Well, exactly. And also, if you look at recent performances on Homestead-Miami, this racetrack, now guaranteed a racetrack changes every year, and also at the same time, this is a new downforce and a new speed package as well on the race car, so these guys do have to adapt. But all 4 of these drivers have tremendous driver ratings and also past performances at Homestead-Miami Speedway. They put together great numbers. So in our B group, we see one guy that I know a lot of people feel like is a great bet to win this race, finds himself at plus 240, Joey Logano, and also, for that matter, his teammate Brad Keselowski at plus 240. Steve, we heard from Ed Salmons and heard from a lot of people this week that these could be 2 of the potential guys of a group of guys that goes ahead and again, upsets, breaks up the party. Where we crown a champion, and also we have a different winner today. If that is the case, it could be either Logano or Keselowski.
The interesting thing is he called out 5 guys. He had the top 4 and then Larson. Everybody else, he thought very little chance here. Obviously, we share a different opinion on guys like Logano, Chase Elliott, 2 of the first guys I think of as potential to upset everyone here and take the checkered flag in this last race and get that momentum going to Daytona in the spring. So I like Elliott at 300 on this thing. He's number 2 in my recent handicap rating. So I like his chances here to win this group.
I like Chase Elliott a lot at that plus 300, but then again, though, I think if I was forced to, I wouldn't be too worried about taking Joey Logano at plus 240. What do you guys think, Jeff?
No, I'm like that. As much as Chase needs a shot in the arm, so does Joey Logano. I think he still feels like that he should be here, racing for a championship, defending his title, and I think he's got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. So a lot of these guys that are gonna have to race him today, they're gonna have to race him. They're going to race him hard.
All right, let us move on to Group C. And, guys, if you look at Group C and you look at these drivers here, I can tell right away by the conversations that we've had so far in the show today, I think it's pretty safe to say that you guys both, Steve, would be looking at Ryan Blaney here.
Yeah, you certainly have to like what Blaney's bringing to the table today. He had a great practice run yesterday. I really liked what I saw in that. So Blaney, that's one of the main reasons I actually pulled on Blaney on my matchup today.
What do you think, Jeff?
Hey, I'm right there with him. I think right now this here is one of those opportunities. He is going to be, I think, hands down, looking at the numbers and the momentum he's coming in here with and what he's wanting to get accomplished. I think he's the guy in that group.
So outside of the championship four, if there are two drivers right now who have a lot going on this race, a lot weighing on them for this race. Of course, earlier this week, it was announced that Daniel Suarez was out at Stewart-Haas Racing, and Cole Custer will be taking over that ride. So Cole Custer now knows where he's going to be next year, and Daniel Suarez is looking for work. So no matter what the outcome today, I mean, every race is an audition for a driver, but this one even more is an audition for Daniel Suarez. So if you look at this group, Daniel Suarez and Jimmy Johnson, one more chance for Jimmy Johnson to make this not a shutout at plus 305, and not one of the favorites by far, Suarez or Johnson. But guys, if you want to pick a group, you may want to cancel out Boyer and Almirola in this one because of the sheer determination. What's on the line, Steve, for Suarez and Johnson?
Yeah, I kind of had almost a sentimental feeling about taking Johnson today on some bets. I actually like what I saw from him last week. I didn't expect a whole lot, and he ended up with a 14th place. I wouldn't put a run towards the top 10 out here today for Johnson as he wraps up 2019.
Okay, Group E, as we move on to this one, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Austin Dillon, Paul Menard, and Matt DiBenedetto. Now, Matt DiBenedetto has been really friendly towards the wagerers this year. He has outperformed in a lot of cases, in a lot of matchups. Paul Menard, this, of course, his last drive as a full-time Cup driver. Austin Dillon with a lot to prove. Ricky Stenhouse, that's his last ride in the 17. So, Jeff Hammond, when you look at that, you see as many different scenarios going on there as there are drivers involved in this thing.
And the guy that I think you need to look at the hardest is Matt DiBenedetto. Out of everybody there, he always races, I think, extremely hard, no matter what the scenario is. And I think he really wants to leave the Levine family on a high note, and kind of enter into 2020 feeling like I deserve to be in that 21 car. I think he's going to be on a mission that these other guys can't handle today. So I like Matt over everybody else in this group.
Yeah, and Steve, he just tends to outperform, whether it's a head-to-head matchup or a group. I think if we look back this year, one of the guys that's really paid off for wagerers has been Matty D.
Yeah, he's certainly been, particularly that run he had July, August time. He was on fire at that point. Been a great return on investment for bettors this year. And the one thing I noted, Menard is on a 4-0 run against DiBenedetto at Homestead. I don't know how much you guys think of things like that, but Menard typically ends the season pretty well, ends his career pretty well today, I would think. It'd be tough maybe for me to bet against him there.
Yeah, true. So quickly, guys, let's go through Group F. Group F here, Steve, anybody stick out between Priest, Dillon, Wallace, and McDowell?
I looked at these guys. They're always so close on my simulation. It's hard to really, I don't have a gut feel about any of these guys today.
So in other words, Jeff, Steve has told us stay away.
Well, again, it's the only variable there and again, it could affect this fourth group. We haven't seen the name Daniel Hemrick in any of these groups all day, during the course of this thing. And Daniel and Ryan Priest are running for their Rookie of the Year in this final race, and it could determine who winds up winning it. So Ryan may be up on the wheel a little more intent today. So it may be a pretty good battle just because of that, and these other three drivers could wind up being on the short end of the stick. So that's the only thing I can say as far as what I look here. Anybody that's got a little extra incentive is Ryan Priest.
Well, stay with us, everybody. When we come back to Racers Odds, we're going to put a cap on this edition, but also at the same time on what's been a very interesting season. We'll recap our bets of the week and give you a little bit more information heading into this one that may make you make the opportunity to cash a ticket. Stay with us.
Hi, this is Doug Rice of the Performance Racing Network. Whenever the PRN crew heads to Las Vegas, we always stay at the South Point Hotel and Casino. You know, it's our home away from home. The South Point features great restaurants, free parking, and they go out of their way to make race fans feel welcome. So when you make your plans to visit Vegas and attend the South Point 400, it just makes sense to book into the South Point. The South Point also offers fantastic room and race ticket packages. Make your reservations now at southpointcasino.com.
A numbers game with Gil Alexander.
Ladies and gentlemen, our pleasure to have Jeremy Piven in studio.
I'm really good friends with Julian Edelman. He and I are very similar size and almost identical, except he's an elite athlete and I'm not. Other than that, everything lines up.
Same person.
Yeah, same. I run the same routes.
Every time we see Julian Edelman on Sunday, we'll be thinking of you.
There you go.
A numbers game with Gil Alexander. Weekdays from 10 a.m. to noon Eastern. VSiN.com and Sirius XM 204. VSiN, the news you need to win.
Hey travelers, do you want to save money on your next flight? Then pick up the phone and call. That's right, call, because the best prices are not online. They're with SmartFares. See, SmartFares has special deals with the airlines. When they have unsold seats, they use SmartFares to fill them. So you get airline tickets at ridiculously low prices. Our prices are too low to publish online. With the extra money you'll save, you can book another trip or treat yourself to dinner or shopping. So stop searching all of those travel sites to find the lowest price on your next flight. Let one of our SmartFares expert travel agents find ridiculously low prices for you. Call SmartFares today and get the best price on your next flight. Guaranteed. Also, save up to 50% off business and first-class tickets.
800-989-0233. 800-989-0233. 800-989-0233. That's 800-989-0233.
We're back with more Racers Odds.
And welcome back, everybody. It's very simple. There is one big trophy and 4 drivers going for it, but a ton of other drivers that have some noise to make by the end of the time this season ends. So Kevin Harvick may be the underdog when it comes to going up against the 3 other Joe Gibbs Racing cars. But with the new rules package and what they found in practice, Harvick is a student of the game when it comes to picking lanes, so it may be an advantage to his side.
Yeah, I think that the line is probably not that much difference. It's just, following behind a car is way worse than what it has been before. So you're going to have to be versatile in where you can run on the racetrack and be able to run bottom, middle, and top, because you can't run behind another car. Typically the bottom just doesn't go as well with the traction. So we'll see how that goes with the higher downforce and the less power.
So whoever you're wagering on is going to have to adapt. If you want to cash a ticket, they're going to have to adapt to the new rules package and where you can run on the racetrack. But another key word this week, Jeff Hammond, is going to be mistakes.
Yeah, don't beat yourself. That's going to be the main thing right there. And somebody who understands what it's like to beat yourself is Denny Hamlin.
This is the first year really kind of just gone by marks on the racetrack for pedigree, and I hadn't had a mark here, and obviously a different package slows down differently and whatnot, and just went too far. I'm a feel and visual. I don't have a specific spot where I stop. I just kind of do it off the feel. But this year just had a different process.
All right, so Jeff, to describe what Denny Hamlin was talking about during practice, he missed pit road.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, as we talked about in the very beginning, making mistakes and beating yourself. And that's the one thing that Denny has been very good about this year. Not very many speeding penalties. His pit crew's been very solid. If you can eliminate mistakes, then you can possibly put yourself in position to win a championship.
But if you are considering wagering on Denny Hamlin, let's remember the couple times they did have miscues this season and went to the back of the pack. They made it all the way back to the front in one case, actually winning that race. So, Steve Makinen, let's start out with you. We're going to now recap our best bets of the week and why we think these are a good place to place some money.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with Ryan Blaney. I like what I've heard from Jeff Hammond today about it, too. I think we share the same thoughts on him. I'm looking for a strong finish from him. I think we've seen great growth from him in 2019. And again, I think this is a guy we're going to be talking about in February as maybe one of the guys we expect to be in the Championship 4 race next year. He's got a better track designation rating than Bowman. He's got a better recent momentum rating than Bowman, and he was better in the practice that 10-lap average yesterday. So those are the three things I've been looking for in handicapping this race, and that's a 3-0 sweep for Blaney knows. I'm sticking with that matchup.
All right, so Jeff Hammond, what do you say?
Keep on the Ryan Blaney bandwagon right now because I feel like he's got a lot of momentum. I think these guys are looking to go out strong in 2019, and he could actually be in a position with this Team Penske group to even be contending for the win and not so much worried about, doing away with Eric Jones, but he may wind up doing away with the whole field. He may wind up putting in a situation where all of a sudden we had crowned a champion running second or third, but not winning.
All right, so that is a good one, and that is Jeff Hammond's bet of the week. Now, folks, when you look back at championships, Jimmy Johnson, as a 7-time champion, ran better on 1.5-mile tracks than anybody else in the history of NASCAR overall. Now, when it comes to recently, there's been nobody better on these 1.5-mile racetracks, especially during his championship year in 2017, than Martin Truex Jr. So when we come to this time around, the rating so far this year on this type of racetrack and the performance has been to Martin Truex Jr. So as a favorite at minus 120, I feel this is very safe because this is one of the few years in many that Kyle Busch has not scored a victory on the 1.5-mile racetrack. That's where we are today. That's where we spent most of the time throughout the course of the playoffs. And had Kyle Busch not brought in that bucket of points by winning the regular season and carrying them through the playoffs, his performance on the 1.5-mile tracks may not have him sitting where he is right now, running for a championship. So this time around, I honestly feel like that is the point that's going to make sure that Martin Truex Jr. finishes ahead of Kyle Busch. That could spell championship, or it could not, because we are not guaranteed that these top four, one of the four will win a championship, but that has been the rule over the last couple of years. So with that in mind, let's take a look at the odds to win the championship this time around, and they're pretty self-explanatory. Steve Makinen, you got your 3 cars from the same team, very equal. These are the 3 drivers that account for 51% of the victories so far this year. So chances are one of the 3 gets another one. And then there's Kevin Harvick, but not too far behind.
Yeah, as I look at these, I agree with Jeff Hammond. I think maybe the advantage is to Harvick because those other 3 JGR guys, they're going to be battling each other. I can't ignore the fact Harvick's last 5 finishes are 3, 4, 3, 2, 1. That is phenomenal.
Yeah.
He has 11 straight top 10s at Homestead. This is a track that being ignored at how good he has actually been here. And I like his chances to win a title today.
Jeff Hammond, we've learned over the years, don't ever write off a Kevin Harvick-driven race car no matter what goes on because he is the closer. And, a fun nickname, but a serious nickname because he's won so many races where he wasn't driving the best car all day long, but he was on the last lap.
No, and I agree with you right there, but I think we've seen him battle all of these guys all year long, and he's been able to rise to the occasion a lot more here recently. I will not be one bit surprised to see Kevin Harvick outrunning Martin Truex Jr. on the final lap to win this championship and win this race at the same time today.
So once again, there's a lot of focus on these championship 4 drivers, but folks, when you go to look to make a wager this weekend, let's remember that there are a lot of great matchups back in the pack. There's a lot of great matchups and potentially an upset victor here in a driver like Kyle Larson, Joey Logano, or Brad Keselowski for that matter. And also, folks, just wanted to take a quick moment here as we wind up this year and this show. Want to say a huge thanks to Steve Makinen, Ed Salmons, Jeff Hammond, and everybody else that works here at PRN, VEASAN, and all the groups that got together to put on this thing. The ever-changing landscape of wagering in America continues to grow, and NASCAR is definitely along for the ride. There are wonderful wagers to be made in and around the NASCAR sport. It's the longest one in the season, and Steve Makinen, I think just it's going nowhere but up.
I would have to agree. I like what Ed said about making more data available to wagerers. I think that's a big reason why so many people are involved in the sports wagering on basketball, football. There's data readily available. The nice thing about NASCAR is it's Sunday afternoons in most cases, Saturday nights. You don't have to be grinding at this every day to bet these sports. I think that has a great chance to take off just because of that.
And Jeff Hammond, it's been a pleasure to work with you once again, my friend.
It's been an outstanding opportunity once again to be starting something that's new, it's fresh, it's the future of NASCAR, and I think the fans will start to enjoy it just like they did fantasy betting a few years ago. This here, I think, is, again, the tip of the iceberg of what we're going to get to see yet to come, and I look forward to being a part of it in the future. So I've really enjoyed this year, enjoyed working with you, Steve, and I look forward to working with you again, John.
Yep, and look forward to see who takes the crown. It's one of the biggest in all of motorsports. It's NASCAR's Monster Energy Cup Series. Congratulations to the two drivers, Tyler Reddick and Matt Crafton, who have won in the Xfinity Series and the trucks. Now we're going to crown the biggest prize of all, that, of course, the Big Cup for NASCAR's Monster Energy Cup Series. So long, everybody. Thanks for coming along for the ride. We hope you enjoyed it, and we hope you're at the window cashing a ticket this afternoon.
This has been Racers Odds, a presentation of TRN, the Performance Racing Network.